Welcome to Season 6 of Business Mentorship Keepin' It Real, introducing corporate leaders who have taken the leap to business owner, introducing their great idea in our guest blog, found on shareyourstories.online. Our guest joins us from Toronto, Ontario. Brenda Andress is an author, former commissioner of the Canadian Women's Hockey League, one of Canada's 100 most powerful women, and the founder of SheIS, a sports network with an app that connects female athletes with fans, fostering engagement, community, and celebration. Let's find out how Brenda has built bridges throughout sport to elevate the profile of female athletes while building a network that engages sports enthusiasts. It's my pleasure to introduce and welcome Brenda.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here.
You have quite the bio, my friend. I have to say, you clearly have been involved in sport for a number of years. So I thought we would start with the story that you shared in your light bulb moment when you talk about getting into that truck with your mom.
Yeah, it's still as clear as a bell because I think it was a defining moment in my life because, I was 16 years of age playing hockey for the very first time. They brought a bunch of women together and we were going to play at 12 noon on a Sunday and everything was set. My bag was ready. And then my brother got a call that he had to go play. He was 3 years younger than me. So dad said, well, he's playing all-star in the boys league. And so off they went and they took the car. And I thought, okay, that's it. I can't get there. But then dad had just bought a brand new van and it was it's the 3 on the column, right? And so I said to my mom, I turned to her, I said, look, let's just take the van. And I remember her looking at me going, can you drive that? I went, sure, I can drive that. Right? Like, how hard can it be? I saw dad do it, drive tractors all the time. So yeah, it can't be that hard. And she kind of looked at me and I said, come on, mom, we're going to be trailblazers. We're going to, this is hockey, women's hockey starting. And she just kind of nodded her head like, okay, but if we break that truck,
we're in big trouble.
and so she jumped in with me and, we hopped, it was like 10 miles to the arena and we like literally hopped as I learned to shift the gears. And by the time I got there, I had it down and, and she went upstairs into the little place to watch me play. And, it was funny because, that's where she sat for, the next 2 years watching me play every Sunday and never saying too much, but just that concept of, following me, believing in me. But I kind of look back at that moment and going, here's a barrier. And, I just thought, sure, I can do it. And you just did it. And yeah, I think it definitely changed my life because I became involved in women's hockey and it kind of changed my world.
Yeah, for sure. Tell us a little bit about being the commissioner of the Canadian Women's Hockey League, because that's a pretty, not only a leadership role, but a role that I'm sure that other young ladies who may be listening to us today may aspire to. So give us a little bit of an indication as to what that was like.
Oh, it was crazy because when we started out, it was a bunch of players, Sammy Jo Small, Lisa Marie Breton from Montreal, and the league before that had kind of faltered and they had no place to play. And these players were going around themselves, in their uniforms, taking tickets, sharpening skates in between their periods. And so, I think I put my hand up at the time and said, hey, maybe I can help. And so they said yes. And, I kind of put a concept together how we could try to move the women's sports further ahead than where it was. And so we did. We got together and it wasn't easy because, we had to, look for dollars, look for sponsorship, look for ways for the women to travel, put together how we were going to give them some types of dollars in place. But, the accomplishments that we accomplished together was unique because, we had the first all-star game held in the Toronto Maple Leafs arena. We played out of the Montreal Canadiens rink, for, and I always remember Carolyn Olette, said her ultimate goal was to play, in the Montreal Forum. And when it happened and all the fans were singing "Ole, Ole," it was like, it was stunning in that way to see that, we weren't able to pay them the big dollars or really to sustain a living at that point, but we did connect with China, and brought the only time we've ever brought an international team into a pro league. And that partnership brought us some dollars in so that our women could travel to China and play and, get to see the country a bit and to get a little bit of money. Not, it wasn't sustainable, but it was a little bit of money to kind of offset those expenses and offset taking time off. So it's a long road, and I'm so happy, today they have an owner that's kind of taken over everything and is able to spend the dollars that was needed. And, my word of advice a lot of times, to a lot of people, I say, the rough part of the road is hard, but when you get the money to get the pavement, it makes such a difference. Money begets money. And so, everybody says, oh, look at all the fans. And when the fans have always been there, they just didn't know how to participate. They didn't know where it was. So it was a great job. I loved it. I met so many people, made a ton of friendships, but it's really a learning experience. You make mistakes when you're going along. And, I'm very proud of that time and very proud of the things we were able to accomplish. And I still see the smiles on those women's faces when they hoisted the Clarkson Cup, the memories that were there, the All-Star games, the award ceremonies that we created in Markham, Ontario. So there was a lot of positives to it. But I mean, you were constantly, Trish, looking for money. I mean,
and that's a real challenge, right? Because as you say, when you're trailblazing and you're a maverick and you're trying to do something outside the box, it does take not only persistence and resilience and creativity, but a heck of a lot of grit to just keep at it day after day, right? And look at a really small win can be a huge win because you just never know what door it'll open, right?
Yeah, it's so easy to believe when everybody else believes around you, and I think that's the greatest thing about some of the women's sports that's happening with the WNBA and the PHW, the PWHL, sorry, is that, women are, and fans and sponsors are believing. So it's easy to believe in something when everybody believes around you. It's a lot harder to believe in something when everybody doubts it around you. And I think, for a lot of women founders, for a lot of women, the head of businesses, that's a path that we walk all the time, because it's like, it's not as easy. I mean, 2% of investment go to women.
Yep.
97% of women's sports is still invisible, still not monetized. So there's a lot of hurdles or barriers or mountains to still climb, I guess.
Sure.
But again, it's, if you're out there as a woman, don't give up because somebody doesn't believe in you, because you only have to believe in yourself. And I think that's the key to us is like, everybody says to me, like, I'm still trying. I mean, I'm out there trying to raise investment dollars for my app, which is an aggregator of information. And it's like, are you sure, Brenda, women's sports is going to stick around? And I'm going, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly. You've been at it for a long time, right? So fast forward us to the organization which you have founded, which is SheIS. And it's not just a sport network. You also have the app. So give folks an indication as to what the app can do, because we all know that apps go on phones, making things accessible and making communication easier. But how does your app actually work?
Yeah, great question. And thank you. I think the difference for us is there is no mobile app out there currently that's an aggregator of information for women's sports content only.
Right.
Wonderful apps out there for us in health, in beauty, in many different ways in that way there. But, and there's phenomenal, the Gist here in Canada does a newsletter that updates on sports, which is great. There's the networks in United States that does phenomenal website, letters, newsletters, and different things pre and post. But there's no actual app where you can go to say, this is what just happened in Alabama, or this is just what happened in Japan, where a woman broke a record, or she just did a new skill. There's nothing out there for us as women to really support women in a way that says, here's where to watch. here's what just broke. And guess what? Here's the stats about that woman that you know nothing about. Right. So for us, it's like our app is different because we're trying to give women a voice of all ages, of all skill, to say, I love the art of sport. And here's my voice. And it's not just a voice for the athletes, it's a voice for the fan, because the fan can add content to our app, which most people can't. People can make comments on an app. Like, you know, they could go in on, you know, ESPN or Sportsnet, and they can make a comment. But we're actually saying write the content, because we're an aggregator, right? So we'll draw content from the existing content users out there, but we're going to send them back to their sites. So we're not trying to say, here, we're the best. We're saying, here's an opportunity for you to go see what's happening over here at the WNBA. Here's what's happening at the GIST. Here's their top stories. So think of us like Apple News. Think of us like, the highlights of Hulu, right? Where it comes in, it goes back out. And I always, it's an app called One Football. It was started in Germany by a group of individuals, and all they do is they're an aggregator for football, soccer. And that's all they do from across the world. They tell you where soccer's being watched, what the scores were, who the people are, and blah, blah, blah. And they send you to someplace else exactly like our concept. And they got ahead of it before anybody else did from the soccer world. They made $95 million last year in sponsorships only. Like they don't stream, they don't do anything else, but they have the monopoly. And so we're saying women's sports is here, it's starting to go. We're on the bottom floor. We have the same opportunity as them. And we're ahead of the game because women's sports hasn't grown massively yet, and nobody's out there before us. So we're kind of like the once again in the truck driving with the standard on the column.
On the column, yeah, exactly.
Saying, here we go.
Now, do you feature the athletes as well, or can the athletes feature a little bit about there? Because it's all about connectivity, right? And I think if we're going to be able to break barriers for future success, then it's almost incumbent on us as the forebearers to share the stories so that people who are lined up behind us can say, you know what, if she can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, so we do that. So what we want to do is the uniqueness about our app is that if there's a story that comes up, let's say a story comes up about an athlete, any athlete, woman athlete out there that's news. So beside that, what makes us different is we're going to say, here's the organization she plays for. Here's the league. Here's the team she plays for. Here's her stats. And if she's done stories, we'll say, here's her stories. So It's unique in the way that it just doesn't tell you that, this person broke a record or this person played tonight and their team lost. Over here on the side, it'll give you all the information, like one-stop shopping. So you get a little bit more than just the story with our app. It kind of says, oh, she plays for this team. Oh, these are her stats. Oh, she has a podcast. I should go check that out. And then, down the road, what we want to do is we want to have our own little, sportscast morning and night news with women telling their own stories about, oh, look, here's what happened during the day in the sports world across the world. And people then can send in their stories, right? Young kids, old kids. And so for us, it's all about telling stories. And the uniqueness about this app, in my opinion, is that this app we want to make it a safe social app for young girls, because there's so much stuff out there right now where, if they go on an app, or they go on to some type of social media, there's also the other side that's being portrayed as, here's some things that are harmful for our kids. And so we want to create a safe app that says, we're telling you the greatest stories of these athletes, but guess what? Next month we might feature an athlete telling her story, and you can get on there and watch that podcast. And so for us, it's about not only having women's voices heard, but opportunities for young girls to say, oh, I just heard this phenomenal story, and I figured out the tools that it's going to change my community or change who I am.
You know what I love is that you started in hockey, which is clearly where your roots are, right? I mean, you played varsity hockey on the men's hockey team when you were in university. I mean, talk about trailblazing, and that was probably a huge feat in itself, because I mean, it opens the doors to all kinds of things, like, where did you change? Like all of those kinds of, you couldn't be in the men's, all of those things. So you've already broken all of those barriers. And I love the story that we start with about, the stick shift on the column, because when you have a will, you have a way. You'll find a way to move around the obstacle, right? But what's really important, I think, about your app is that it's not just for hockey.
That's true. It's every sport.
For everything. And so you've opened the door to say to folks, listen, if you're an athlete and you're interested and you want to participate, we now have a platform that you can engage with and expand your visibility. Because that's really what it's all about, right? We're trying to increase everybody's visibility so that women in sport can get the same sponsorships that we've seen in men's sport over the years, which, as you and I both know, is in the millions of dollars.
Millions
and millions, right? Like those athletes make more money in endorsements and sponsorships than they do playing the sport that they love. And so why shouldn't we be able to open the door for women to be able to do that too? And that's really what I love about what you're doing. It's inclusive. It's not exclusive. You're not saying this is for only hockey, women in hockey, or it's only for women in football or in tennis or whatever their sport and their love is. You're saying it's for everybody. It's for women who are interested in sharing stories who happen to be athletes.
That's absolutely correct. And I think the uniqueness about our app also is that you can upload yourself. So if you don't see yourself on our app as an athlete, you can upload yourself. Now it has to be vetted to make sure that they're the right, you are a person. And that's the uniqueness of it is that if you don't see yourself, you don't see your team, you don't see your league, you can upload it and then, and connect with us and we can put you on the app. And again, then you can tell the stories about your league and the app. And I think it's also important that it's for women, but it's for girls. Our average age of 13 drop out of sports at 13 years of age. There's no connection, and people have done the studies forever and ever. And yes, we have to get them involved, but we're getting them involved, not just as an athlete, but they could be a content writer. I'm going to a game and I'm going to be a journalist because I'm going to write, which again, doesn't give a lot of openings for us as women to write sports stories, to get in, on writing for ESPN or, Sportsnet or Rogers. It's like, there's so many different opportunities is what you're speaking about. It's not just the athlete, it's the journalist. It's not just the journalist, it's the photographer. It's not, there's so many different ways that women can have their voices heard. And that's so important for us in today's world because, it doesn't matter. We don't want to shrink our voice. We want to increase our voice.
Sure.
And we don't have to be a part of something to make us successful. And I think a lot of times as women, and this is my own opinion, Trish, is like a lot of times, I've been in the sports world long enough where they, a lot of people coming up going, but if we belong to the men's world, then we're in. And I go, no, if you create your own world, then you're in.
That's right.
And I think that's a big difference for us is because, we want to be like them. And I'm going, they're already taken, just be us. Right. Yeah. So that's
very true. That's very true. When you think back, I'll date myself here, but when I was a little girl wanting to play baseball, I remember baseball was the thing I wanted to play. There was no league.
No.
There was nowhere for me to play baseball. The only thing that I could do is use my brother's bat and his mitt and, and ball and hit something in my own backyard, or the two of us would play, catch or something like that, because there was no place to play. And not only that, they wouldn't allow us to play with the boys.
Right.
There was an exclusivity there. So times have changed, which I think is really amazing. People like yourself have said, no, we're not going to go with the status quo. We're going to elevate our voice. We're going to think outside the box. We're going to take the risk, and we're going to make sure that the people coming behind us have more opportunities and experiences than we had. And to me, quite honestly, what you're doing, that's the thing that I think is the most amazing. Yes, elevating and getting women involved and all of that thing is so amazing. But you as the founder are really stepping outside the box. You're raising your head above the profile and you're saying, you know what, we have to make a change. And I'm going to make that change. And there's going to be all kinds of people behind me who are going to help us make that change. And I think that's where you are with the app, right? You're looking for those people to step into those roles and say, I'm here, join me. Let's make a difference.
Yeah. It's so funny. If you say to yourself, I want to know what the greatest idea is next, where I can be successful and turn around my investments or turn around and make a difference. We're right here.
Yeah.
We're right here. And it's like, close your eyes and pretend I'm not a woman, and think about the concept. What is the next best, biggest thing that's coming? Well, that's us. We're the next best thing that's coming. We're the uniqueness. There's so many avenues and opportunities with us to grow. And it's right. You got to find that one person that believes and has the ability to see into the future, to know, wow, this is a gangbuster, right? It's like, it's going to go crazy. You think about the 5 billion women that are sports fans of women's sports across the world. And, you tap into that, and it's like, if they gave $1 to be on the app, think of the dollars that would come in. Think about the golden 35-year age woman who's the perfect marketing person that you market to for the sponsors that could be on our app. So yeah, it's finding that right person. It's not giving up. For anybody that's listening right now, it's like, don't give up. A lot of people say to me, like, what's your line in the sand? Right. And I'm going, well, I don't know if I have a line in the sand. To me, it's like, I believe in something. And usually when I believe in something, I want to make it work for all the right reasons.
Sure.
And I think for myself, this is like, I know somebody's out there, and I know one day I'll be sitting on the stage somewhere with this person, and they're going to say, how did you know? How did you know? And they're just going to say the same as me. They just knew. It's like they believed in the path forward that women's sports. And it's easy to believe. People are picking up WNBA teams. People are picking up, soccer teams. Well, that's because it's successful. They're showing this. This is just before success. This is an app that's an aggregator, never been done before. We're ahead of the curve. And it's like, when you say, oh, are women really going to download that? And I'm going, the concept isn't about a women going to download that. Will we be prepared when they do download that?
Right. Yeah. How can we get the word out so that they'll download it?
Right. Yeah. Because once they'll download it like crazy.
For sure.
We then have to prepare to make sure that when they download it, their experience is perfect. Yeah. And so people will say to me, well, just go out now. I'm going, you can't go out now. We don't have enough staff behind us. We need dollars to do that, because because we're judged differently, Trish. You know this. Yeah. If we go out with an app and it's not right, people go, yeah, there goes another women's thing. Right. Yeah. And it's like, so we know it. And now we got to, just put it together.
Make it right. Yeah,
make
for
it
sure.
Right.
So that takes us to your 3 words of advice, because I think that, let's wrap up our conversation with your 3 words, which are belief, worthy, and belonging. And tell us how that ties in with everything that you're doing.
I think as women, we never believe that we deserve something. We never believe that we're worthy of something, or that we belong at the table. And in order to overcome that, if a guy wins a trophy at his, mixed soccer league that, is for the beer league of 50 over, he'll bring his trophy home and he'll tell everybody he won the trophy. Right. Because to him, it's like, of course I do. Look at me. I'm a fabulous athlete, even at my age, for a rec hockey thing. We as women win big awards, and we never step up and say, oh my God, but you know what? I am worthy and deserving, and I believe in myself for this award. And I think that's what you have to do a lot. When nobody else does. When nobody else does, you can go. I've been at the tables where people will say to me, well, how do you manage? I've been at those tables where I'll say, I think this idea is a pretty good idea. And it flows right over their head. And 2 minutes later, somebody down the road says it, and it's a male, and they go, wow, that's a great idea. So it's like, to me, it's like, well, man, I know I'm worthy to be at this table. I belong here. I belong so much that they steal me ideas. Right. It's like,
exactly.
So it's like, instead of being that negative, oh my gosh, they stole my idea. I don't, they're never going to listen to me. Mine was more like, he thought it was good enough to take it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it's like, women have to believe that they're worthy of so many things in our lives. They have to believe it to their core. When nobody else does believe it, it's us to believe it. And then know that you belong. You belong at the awards. You belong at the table. You belong in the relationship. You belong in the job. And those are hard for us as women to kind of accept, right? We're just not good at accepting that.
You know, we need the cheerleaders like you and I in the background who are saying, you know, yes to all of those things. And that, you know, I almost am looking for a new catchphrase, which we come up with at Share Your Stories every few years. And I think our new catchphrase is going to be together, we are making a difference.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, if you and I and everyone else who has shared their story on this platform, who are a trailblazer in their industry, in their business, in their community, when we all pull together and we do great things, you know, every simple act of kindness pushes us that much closer to the goalpost. And I think that's really what this is all about. So I'd like to thank you very much for joining me today, sharing not only your personal story, but giving us the motivation to say, you know what, we can't give up. We have to keep going, and that together we will eventually break the barriers that we're hoping to break for success. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Absolute pleasure. To you, our viewing and listening audience, I'd like to thank you for joining us today for this edition of Keeping It Real, introducing you to the person behind the logo. And if you're out there and you'd like to connect with our guest, you're going to find Brenda's contact information in the description portion below. I'm Trish Tonai, author, artist, and the founder and host for the series. And we invite you to share your business story. Just visit our website at shareyourstories.online and subscribe to our channel, Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we share another great idea.